Welcome councillors, welcome everybody to the Ordinary Council meeting on the Thursday 21st of November. We've got a few people in the audience too, welcome. In accordance with the Weddin Shire Council's Code of Meeting Practice, this meeting will be recorded for the purposes of audio-visual live streaming via Council's website and Facebook page. Those in attendance are asked to refrain from making any defamatory statements and comply with all relevant Weddin Shire Council's codes, policies and procedures at all times. We then move on to acknowledgement of country. Weddin Shire Council would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. Weddin Shire Council would also like to pay respects to the elders, both past and present, of the Wiradjuri Nation and extend their respects to other Aboriginals who are present or watching. Acknowledgement of service. Weddin Shire Council, we honour our service personnel who have sacrificed their lives in the defence of our freedom, our peace and our prosperity. We acknowledge all our frontline workers and volunteers who each day provide our essential and our non-essential services, especially those within our Weddin Shire local government area. Councillors, we now move on to attendance and application of leave. We have got one application for leave from Councillor Chad White. Can we have a move in a second that we accept the application for leave? Moved by Councillor Macon and seconded by Councillor Neal. All those in favour of accepting that? Aye. Please say aye. All those against? Thank you, councillors. Next in section 5 is the confirmation of the previous minutes. Everyone's had a chance to have a look at them. No questions regarding the confirmation of the minutes? No matters arising? No. So I'll have a mover for the... Yep, moved by Councillor Gorman, seconded by Councillor Macon. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Thank you. Disclosure of interest. I'll ask the General Manager for disclosure of interest.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, there are no disclosures of interest this meeting.
No, very good one. Thank you. Public forum. You have no public forums?
No. Through you, Mr Mayor, no, there are no public forums.
No mayoral reports or minutes. And no motions or questions with notice. We actually, this meeting, we do have a number of late reports. So we'll probably ask to accept the late reports now, and then we'll deal with them as they come up in the rest of the meeting. That's all right. So can I have a move and accept to accept the late reports? Yep. Moved by Councillor Parlett. Yep. Second by Councillor Montgomery. All those in favour? Favour, please. Aye. All those against? Thank you, councillors. That's it. Next. That's it. So we move on, and now we move on to section 10, the General Manager report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mover and seconder.
Oh, sorry. Yes. A move and a seconder for that.
For the community engagement strategy.
You want to move into that?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yep. So we'll move on to section 10, which is the council recommendation, receive and note the information of the draft community engagement strategy. Have a mover for that, please. So we can just moved by Councillor Gorman, seconded by Councillor Macon. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a draft community engagement strategy. It's in line with our integrated planning and reporting framework. It's a comprehensive strategy that talks about how council will be consulting on our integrated planning and reporting documents, like our community strategic plan, through to our delivery program, through to our operational plan, as well as our resourcing strategies. Now, the community engagement strategy looks at a number of consultation tools and engagement tools that we are hoping to engage with the community. We think it's a really good opportunity to redo our community strategic plan into next year. It's a requirement that council will need to adopt it before 30 June. So the community engagement strategy talks about the variety of engagement tools that we'll be utilising when we'll be going out to consult. It also incorporates our community participation plan, which is a planning requirement in terms of when a development application is lodged, when you would notify that development application, through to if you've got a planning proposal, how you go out for public consultation and consult with people around that. It is best practice to combine both documents. So there is an Office of Local Government Integrated Planning and Reporting guideline, so we've used that to produce our community engagement strategy.
Any questions or comments, councillors? No? I'll make a comment. I think it's a terrific, actually, it's a terrific policy. It's really well written, easy to follow, and hopefully it'll give us a real strategic focus in the future if we follow that. We should end up with a really well written and a well engaged community when it comes to our community strategic plans. I think it's a great step in the right direction.
Through you, Mr Mayor,
Yes.
What who were the stakeholders that were involved in creating this document?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. At the moment, at this point in time, it's an internal process, and that's the reason why we're now putting it out for consultation, because it's just a draft document.
Further comments, councillors? No. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Thank you. Carried. Next. Yep. Councillor Bendy, shutdown period. We have a move in a second, please. Yep, moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Parlett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just for council's information on our intent in terms of closures of facilities during the Christmas and New Year 2024-25 period. We are intending to close the administration building and the Grenfell Library up until, so from the 24th of December at 12 noon through to the 6th of January 2025. So it is a little bit longer than what we normally do. It was a request of our staff to have that additional closure, so they will be taking annual leave during that time, and it is proven to be more of a quiet period of time for our council, and it just gives the opportunity as well in terms of managing the risk of how many staff members haven't been able to take leave as well, and their leave now hits the excess leave balance. That's with the majority of indoor staff that have been unable to take leave. We'll be obviously operating some reduced operating hours across things like the Visitor Information Centre, but our aquatic centres and our waste facilities will be open as usual, but just closed on Christmas Day. Our depot will still be open with limited services to make sure that the staff are still going out, cleaning toilets and doing repairs as required.
Questions or comments, councillors? There's no effect. We're not sort of contracted with the RMS or anything like that, are we? For the number of times we're open, number of hours we're open, or days?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, when with the Service New South Wales, yes, there is requirements in terms of how often we need to be open, but during that period of time, we just ask for a waiver to be closed, and that's completely fine.
That's completely, yeah, that's all. No worries. Very good. Okay, we'll put the recommendation that we accept those closures of the facilities during Christmas and New Year break. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against? Thank you, councillors. Next, scroll on to that's the adoption of the donations and in-kind contributions policy. We have a move and a seconder, please. Councillor Montgomery, seconded by Councillor Niven. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The donation and in-kind contribution policy, the draft version, was tabled to council tabled to the previous council and put out for public exhibition. Now, this donations and in-kind contribution policy, as we are all aware, our community groups are run by volunteers. When they do apply to council for a grant, they're submitting an annual application form to council. It's very, very labour intensive from their side, and once it comes in, we obviously then need to prepare the report and table it to council. So there's also the administration burden at our end as well. What we're proposing is going to a model that's very similar to what other councils have around a pre-approved list. So they're listed in the policy, acknowledging that there is two things that are missing, there's a typo in there just around the Country Education Foundation as 2,500. That should be corrected, and then the other part that was raised with the previous council term was that we were to include the town band donation, and that is something that we have missed off there. So in noting that when we ask council to adopt the policy, that it's just noted that that will be an amendment to the final version. So we have an existing resolution as well that we provide donations out to our village progress groups, and so that now forms part of this policy process as well. There's a pre-approved sponsorship of our Henry Lawson Festival as part of this policy. Now, it still leaves some budget for each year that if a community group came along and had a new idea or a new event that they wanted to run, they could still put an application into council, so there's still some leftover funds for us to consider that. And then it's just around to stay on the pre-approved list that at the end of their event or the financial year, we just ask the community organisation to submit the acquittal form back to us, but we will make sure that we write to them to, just as a polite reminder as well.
because we're actually adopting the policy, should we make that change to the recommendation to
Yep.
include those?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So we'll have a third dot point there, which would be change the...
Move that we amend the recommendation to include the Greenfield District Town Band.
Yep.
And amend the CEF donation to 2,500, or
Yes.
to read 2,500.
So who was Jen?
Yes, Jan was the mover.
So you're as the mover and the second, would you happy for those amendments?
Yes.
Yeah. So that now becomes a motion. No more comments on that or questions, councillors? Oh, Councillor Niven? No? No? No more questions? Right. Well, I'll put that the amended motion to the floor, please. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Thank you, councillors. Thank you. Okay, that's it. Fine. Next is the draft recruitment and attraction policy. Councillors, do I have a mover and a seconder? Yes, moved by Councillor Macon, seconded by Councillor Rolls. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The draft recruitment and attraction policy is an update of our previous recruitment policy. It's around how we can strengthen our recruitment and selection practices at Weddin Shire Council. We acknowledge that in June of this year we did a staff engagement and wellbeing survey, and one of the biggest area that the staff wanted us to improve on was around recruitment. It was acknowledged that they wanted a policy that was clearly outlining standardised processes as well as a procedure to actually support that. So with the assistance of our WHS and Staff Consultative Committee Chair in Asher Woodrow, he actually prepared this policy that you are now reviewing. It's been tabled multiple times to our Staff Consultative Committee. It's very well supported amongst our committee members. So it's now proposed to go out for public exhibition. It also allows new applicants who are looking at applying for a job with council, looking at potential attraction provisions that could be, especially if they were looking to relocate here, some assistance there. And then also the process in terms of making sure that applicants get feedback if they were successful or unsuccessful as well.
I just honestly, on behalf of the council, thank the work from Work Health and Safety and the Staff Consultative Committee on all the work on it. It's really good. Any comments, councillors?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, for the attraction for new employees scheme, so for housing and relocation, where were those figures sort of drawn from? Were they from what was already existing, or is this brand new for in terms of assistance in that way?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, council owns some units, so that was a prior council resolution. So in terms of that, that is generally identified for people who are of senior levels, like especially when you're talking about trying to recruit. I'll use the engineers as an example. They are particularly hard to recruit, so obviously they need to relocate to the area. Now, in terms of the relocation, that was kind of a case-by-case basis, so making sure that having a policy that actually standardises that approach, it's clear and upfront to everybody, it's equitable, it's fair, it's transparent. And sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, my comment about the budget is it's just a figure that we will have to figure out as we go along. The more we recruit, obviously the more we might have to look into that, but if we have a steady workforce around that, then there might be some years where we don't have to utilise it much.
They'll take it all. So.
Yep. Thank you.
Very good. No other questions or comments? No? All right, I'll put that one to the vote then. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. All those against? Thank you. Carried. Next one, we move on to 10.5, the resolution register. I have a move in a second for discussion, please. No. Yes, moved by Councillor Macon, seconded by Councillor Rolls. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Don't all jump up at
No,
the same
they're very
time.
quiet tonight.
The resolution register, as explained in our pre-briefing just before, the resolution register has the resolutions from the previous council term. Our new software with Info Council allows us to track our resolutions that get put forward to council, but as I expressed in our pre-briefing, that if councillors do note that something's dropped off the list, just to contact us around resolutions that you think have been taken off because we might have accidentally completed it, for example. But this is just a running list of the resolutions, and you'll be provided updates as we go. If we can't close out a resolution, you get provided, I guess, a project status or a resolution status update as well.
Any questions on any of the things within that report? No? Okay, I'll put that one as well to the vote, please. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you. So, move on. Do you have the... No, we've got 10.6 and 10.7. Yep. 10.6, the annual report and the audited financial statements. So move and accept for the recommendation, please. Yes, moved by Councillor Montgomery, second by Councillor Neal. Thank you. This is a big one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will probably only comment on the annual report side, and I'll hand it over to our Director of Corporate Services on our audited financial statements. But attached for Council's reference is the annual report for the 23-24 financial year. It's a requirement within the front end of our annual report that we provide statutory information. So it's anything from at a given day, every single council needs to report in terms of how many employees we employ. And there's things around modern slavery. It's a statement that we also have to provide now within our annual report. We've also tried to personalise it to a branding perspective around how we can promote ourselves as an employer, so talking about those training and development opportunities for staff. But we have pretty much ticked off the list in terms of what we need to actually answer, and if anyone reads our annual report and wants to know where they can actually get the information of, I guess, the annual report checklist, it's actually on the Office of Local Government's website of what every single council needs to answer. So that's available online. So we've gone through and made sure that we've numbered it against the, that OLG reference guideline. But I'll hand it over to our Director of Corporate in terms of our audited statements.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor. So just following on from that, so part of the annual report, there's a requirement under in the Local Government Act, Section 428, subsection 4, and requires audited financial statements to also be included. So those audited financial statements have been done and audited and on time, and so then they've gone out for public exhibition as well. They get advertised in the Grenfell Record. They have been advertised on the 14th and the 21st of November. And then any notices that Council receives, we are obliged then to provide those to the Office of Local Government. So in the paper, you'll see there's just a very, and what's been published has been a very high level of our financial statements, which people can read. And I know the initial draft report was tabled to Council on the 8th of October 2024, which you'll be familiar with. The position at that time on Red Fleet assets was that Council was expecting to receive a qualification because we don't believe that they need to be reported. However, the Audit Office have lifted that qualified reported opinion because essentially they've deemed them to be immaterial. So they have so good news for us is it's not qualified. Some more information there in terms of adjustments that were suggested, which was essentially contract assets were in the statements twice, so that just reduces our revenue down. But again, because they were not material, they were just merely reported, but they didn't actually make an adjustment to the financial statements. Okay, so in terms of the ARIC as well, they have been notified, and they've also spoken to independently to the auditors as well to ask any questions, and that happened on the 12th of November. And then ARIC, and there was a further presentation to Council on the 18th of November from the auditors as well in terms of financial statements. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I need to report there.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I can make a comment around our income statement. Yep. In terms of, you will see that our 2024 year was a bumper year. We had income from continuing operations at over 28 mil, and our expenses, I guess, evened out. As councillors are well aware, we received a large amount of grant funding for natural disasters, for other road projects as well. At any given year in the past, our budget generally would sit around the $14 to $18 million mark. So you have seen quite a big uplift in terms of what income has actually come into council, but it's obviously restricted for a purpose, whether it's around road construction, culvert construction. So I just thought I would note that in terms of how much money did actually come in and how much we actually spent as well.
We did end up with a surplus.
Yes, we did. And through you, Mr Mayor, just procedurally, the annual report, once it's uploaded online, will also include the state of our shire. So that's just a once in every 4 years that the annual report includes that, because that report's done every 4 years.
There's no questions from councillors. I just want to thank John and all your staff for doing that. As the auditor said to us, it was a great job. We got it in on time, and it's a good result for us, really. Everyone should be very pleased with themselves. I mean, we've moved from, I think we lost 14 things on our management letter, so removed 14 things from our management letters we had previously, which is really great work, and that's what we need to do as council. We're a small council, we've got to be moving forward and making sure we're doing everything right. So thank you, John, and your staff for all the effort with it.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any questions or comments, councillors? The same as I'd like to thank the staff for all the work they did on the actual report as well. I think this one had a fair bit to do with all that. There's a lot of work in doing these. I think anyone at home not realising our business papers this month was like 609 pages long with all the reports. So it's a lot of staff work, and we're all very grateful for the work you do. That's it. So if no more comments, councillors, I want to put this to the vote. All those in favour? Aye. Aye, and all those against? Thank you, councillors. Next we'll move. So we've got the late report, which is the community support application from the Country Education Foundation of Grenfell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Yep, I'll move in a second, please. Moved by Councillor Parlett, seconded by Councillor Gorman. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Mr Mayor. In regards to our Country Education Foundation of Grenfell, they have submitted an application in. Our annual contribution to them in the past has been $2,500, but we've also given a summary of previous donations that were smaller in the past. The committee have requested that council consider increasing that donation to $4,000, obviously a $1,500 increase. We just do note that their reasons in terms of why they are requesting that increase was obviously around the cost of living, the additional costs to run these programs. As councillors are aware that you have just adopted the donations and in-kind contributions policy with the pre-approved list, our donations vote actually has increased in terms of what we used to provide out to the community of $15,000, then we actually increased it up to $25,000, plus our village donations, and then plus our Henry Lawson Festival sponsorship as well. So with that policy, with the pre-approved list, it basically means that you have about $5,000 roughly per year for new applications to come in from new events, new projects that community groups might want to do. So it's just in that consideration in terms of, I guess, sharing that load around amongst the community. It was our recommendation just to maintain the $2,500 donation, but also to write to the committee to thank them for their work, and then also acknowledging I guess the difficult situation for council in making that decision there, but that's the recommendation that we have put forward to council.
Any questions or comments, councillors? No. I mean, my comment would be we'd love to be able to help everybody and increase our donations to everybody, but the money council have is a finite resource, and we're trying to do the best we can with it. So, like I said, it's a pity we can't. It's a great group, and they do terrific work for the kids, and keep that money and keep those kids in education, which is really good, and we really support them. But I think the recommendation is probably the right recommendation. So, if there are no comments, we'll put this one to the vote then, councillors. All those in favour of the recommendation that note the community support application received in the Country Education Foundation and approved to donate the $2,500 to the Country Education Foundation for the 2025 scholarship. You voting or question?
Well, I thought we were voting.
Oh, that's right, we'll vote. all those in favour say aye. And all those against? Thank you, councillors. So we move on to, this is 11, the Corporate Services Report, Quarterly Business Review Statement from the Director of Corporate Services. We have a move and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Roll, seconded by Councillor Gorman. Thank you. We'll ask the Director to provide his Quarterly Review Statement, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Love to. All right, so the QBRS Quarterly Business Reporting is a financial reporting system that presents a summary of Council's financial position at the end of each quarter of the financial year. The QBRS for quarter 1 is, as you can see, it's attached in the report. So it includes a budgeted profit and loss by program, budgeted profit and loss by fund, statement of financial position or balance sheet in there as well, a list of contracts, consultants and a legal, a list of all the contracts we have, and then also an amount of consultants and legal budget spend as well for that quarter. It also lists the reserves, both in terms of internal allocations, but also external restrictions on cash. And finally, it includes the Council's capital program. So basically all the capital projects that are going on, just gives you a quarterly update on those as well. So also, Council's required to table endorse this quarterly budget within 2 months at the end of each quarter. So hence we're here in November looking at this. So in terms of highlights, as at 30 June 2024, we just listened from the GM about our operating surplus being about 1.072 mil. And then I mentioned before the adjustments that didn't need to be reported, that effectively, if you take those into account, it comes back to a smaller surplus of 296,000. It is worth noting that we had an operating result of about 73,000 reported in our June QBRS, so we're actually pretty close. So we're comfortable that we're tracking to what we're reporting, which is the good news. It's the good news story. So in terms of revotes, the proposed variations include the Council revote 17,000 from Councillor Operations across to Legal Governance. That's just an internal move because essentially, largely the changes are finessing and fine-tuning the last budget that was done. So some things were, overstated or understated, and these are just really just adjustments to square it up so that it actually is in line with what it should be. Next one was 66,000 from Corporate Administrative Services. That's basically our external auditors. That figure has been put in twice. So luckily for us, we can reuse it, reallocate it, and we have, and we've put it across there, and you'll see in the paper where we've allocated it to there. Next one, the village donations. So that one revotes 9,000 from village donations and moves it across to Heritage and to the Heritage Advisor, but also the Heritage funds available for heritage projects for Council to consider as well, where they can. It's also worth noting that again was village donations should be 16,000. It was reported at 25,000, so that's just simply bringing it back to where it should be.
We're not actually removing money from the
We're not removing money from them.
Just correcting it.
That's correct. That's correct. So we have $5,000 for each village and $1,000 for Bimby as well in there, so there's 16. Next one, which is a large movement. So that's this is the capital income, and that sort of ties in with the capital projects we'll also expand on and look at. But that's about 5.9 mil, and that was just simply reported as operational revenue, and it should be capital revenue. So we're proposing that that's a revote just to move that into the right area. The capital works program that's made up of that 5.9 mil is reconstruction of Greenfield Karawatha roads, reconstruction of the Nowlands Road, Tyrone Creek Road reseal, Quandiala Pool refurbishment, which was opened the other week, which was nice to see. Weddin signage rollout, the festoon lighting installation, which everyone will know is happening right now. So that's good. Arramagong culvert reconstruction, construction, and last the EPA illegal dumping grant, which we've touched on previously as well. The next one would be, again, moving natural disasters revenue. So at this stage, or we had it back in the Q4 as capital revenue, it should be operational revenue. So that's just simply readjusting that amount.
Yep.
And it should just, yeah, that's that one. And then RMCC, again, so we've got 8,010,000 allocated for RMCC this year, which Council has committed to with Transport for New South Wales. And again, that was in capital revenue, and it just needs to be moved to operational revenue. So that's just a revote there. And so essentially they just represent corrections to the June 2024 QBRS. And there's one more there for 21,679 from emergency services to, again, we've allocated through to heritage, and also plant external maintenance. Again, that was just an overstatement. It was an estimate in the June 2024, and we actually got the actual figures after the event. So we were actually able to adjust that to, again, we overestimated conservatively, and we were able to apply that money somewhere else. So some highlights. The general fund, that's revenue, rates and rental is in line with our forecast amounts. User fees and charges are lower than expected at this time of the year. However, within Q1, however, it's not a linear pattern. It's just as and when through the year. So there's no concerns there. It doesn't raise any concerns as far as I'm concerned. It goes on the sewer fund, waste management fund. The only point I want to make about the waste management fund is that the council resolved to create an external restriction for waste management fund, which it now has. And the initial one was 100,000, and then there's a further one which was voted in the 2024 council meeting to have a further 150 in the 2025 financial year. All right. So then, in terms of other environmental services, talked about that. Talked about the restriction. So I think, unless there's any other questions there's a lot of information there. So please, read through it if in the public that you haven't seen it before. Have a look at it. But it certainly does give you a very comprehensive overview of the quarter. We, at a high level in the report, from a profit and loss perspective, we are tracking very much in line with the forecast, which is the good news. We haven't forecasted we haven't put depreciation through. If we did put depreciation through, we'd be tracking exactly according to forecast at the moment. And we have forecasted in our June budget for 2025, we're an operational deficit of about 2.7 mil, and we're tracking very much in line with that. And so the QBRS report actually breaks it down by fund: general fund, sewer fund, waste fund, with a total, and then the comparison to the budget, and then lists out by program as well, and that's all per the operational plan that's been adopted, and then the proposed revotes are also in there for people to see. And then we move on to the consultants, contracts and legal budget review. So that just lists out all our contracts at the moment that are in play. The reserves, we have about 3.5 of internal allocations, about 9.2 of external restrictions. I won't go into that anymore until I get to the next report, which we'll go to talk about. And then the capital program, so that talks about all of our capital programs we're on at the moment. So obviously the first one would be the RMCC Roads Maintenance Council contract, and where we are and how we're progressing there in terms of that $8,010,000 budget. So that just breaks it down into the highways, the work that we're doing the amounts we've been allocated and the percent completion status. So that will continue to evolve, and we'll report on that. There's one on regional roads as well. So we've got four roads. There's 860,000 for regional roads. There's a roads component of 734, traffic facilities 58, supplementary 68,000, and then a list of roads there that make up that 860. So you've got Young Road, Goolong Road, Mary Gilmore Way, Forbes Road in there. Rural Local Roads Program, so that's part of the financial assistance grant, is also in there. 760,000 is going to that. And then there's also from the financial assistance grant, or the FA grant, there's another 100,000 going to plant upgrade. So that's just general plant maintenance and things. That's an area that we really need to support. Roads Recovery Program, the amount there is 825. It's been provided to council this year. That will incrementally go up over the next 4 years as well. So it's actually a good improvement for us. So that's good, pleasing to see. Got roads like Dodds Road, Weekleys Road, Marangaroo Road, Heathcote's Lane, Quandiella, 3rd Street curb and gutter replacement, Hoctor's Lane culvert, Ribbery, and excuse me for my pronunciation. Ribbery culvert collapse, and then Lynch's Lane. So that's about $825,000 there, and it just basically gives you a snapshot of what we've spent today, what we've committed to spend today. In the funds remaining, that simply says, well, how much of the funds have we not received yet? You get the funds in milestone payments, so that just reflects whether we've received the whole lot, or we haven't received any of the whole lot, or we've received, progress payments and a percentage of the whole lot. Then we've got regional emergency. Do you want to go into further detail?
I think it's because, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, because you're kind of just providing information about the programs, not so much the finances. So just in terms of that, there's just a proposed revote, they're the key ones to actually mention.
Proposed, thank you. So the proposed revote here is the Roads to Recovery program. So we actually had some different amounts and different roads in there. So we had an original, so Dodds Lane, we had 515,200, proposed revotes 220,000. Wheatley's Road, 500,000 was the original, proposed revote is 100,000. Marangaroo Road was not included, but it's now got a proposed revote of 250,000. Heathcote's Lane, again, culvert replacement had nothing in the original budget, but now has 98,800. Quandiella 3rd Street curb and gutter wasn't in the original one, but we're proposing 83,000 for that. Hoctor's Lane culvert repair, we had nothing in the original one, and we're proposing 20,000. Ribbery culvert collapse, there was nothing in the original budget, but we're proposing 54,000. And then Lynch's Lane resheeting, it originally had 178,400, and that's now got zero in there. And that's a function of different grants will fund different roads as well, and we use, roads can be funded by various grants as well. So that's really, those come through the infrastructure department, and they will inform what are the priority roads. So that's what we're proposing there, and that's what the information they've provided us, coming to the 825,000. So no change in dollars, but just a reallocation to different roads and additional roads there. So Regional Emergency Road Repair Fund, that's some minor changes there from last time. There's a lot of roads which are listed. I don't propose to go through them all, but you'll see them in the report there, and what our proposed revote is there. Fixing local roads, Greenport, Kurawatha, that sort of tells you where we're up to, and essentially the last of it is being, we're up to the reseal now, but it's very near completion for that one. That's one of our capital budget to the amounts for 2025. Fixing local roads, Nowlands Road pavement, that's in progress now through to this stage, February 2025, and obviously we're working around harvest for that one. But that's so we've got some spend there. We've got a fair bit of spend still on that one. Bridges renewal program. No changes there. Stronger Country Communities Funds, no changes there. The LRCI, so obviously phase 1, 2 and 3 have rolled off from the last QBRS. They've now been acquitted and audited. We're just waiting on a final audit report for those ones. So then we have phase 4, which we've got in there at the moment, which is Grenfell, festoon lighting, Taylor Park, stage 1, and CCTV cameras in the main street, and also the Arrambagong culvert construction. So that makes up your local roads and community infrastructure, or LRCI. The active transport plan, that's the Carragable shared pathway. That's been around for a while, and we're actually getting close now. We're just waiting for final approval of the footpath over the rail tracks at Carragable with the ARTC, or the Australian Rail Track Corporation, for that one. COVID grant economic stimulus package, so that's the new amenities facility, which is now near completion at the cemetery, so that's pleasing. EPA illegal dumping and flood waste recovery, that's in progress. We have extended that time out to do that. Grant was awarded at the end of 2023. We then applied for a variation, and we got an extension of time for that, and it's been rolling to this financial year, to the 2025 financial year, so that's in progress at the moment.
That's the fencing and the...
Yep.
That's the fencing,
Yep.
Right. And then we've got natural disaster recovery, so that's and I think I'll defer to the Director of Infrastructure, who will provide a report on that one as well, I think, in your report, the infrastructure report. So,
For you, Mr Mayor, I think you've covered most of his report.
Great job, John.
there you go. Oh, you owe me one. The last one I do want to say though is the last capital reserve, and that is the project is the Crown Reserves Improvement Fund, or the CRIF. So that's for stage 2 of Taylor Park, and that's and that was opened by the Honourable Steph Cook a couple of weeks ago as well, which was great. Which was the first sod turning for that one. So that concludes my report, and apologies for being so long with that one.
Being thorough, we'll call it thorough. It's a great report. I think you've highlighted a couple of things which we need to obviously keep an eye on. One of them is obviously the wages is up to getting a little bit higher in that section, but obviously there's reasons for it, and you're well aware of it, so we'll keep an eye on that as going in the future.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Any comments or questions, councillors, regarding the...
Through you, Mr Mayor. It's probably, am I correct, that a lot of those figures for the roads, for example, we're still waiting for the funding to be approved. It's not that we have received all of that money.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it's only for natural disasters that we're still awaiting, but things like the Regional Emergency Road Repair Fund was actually paid up front.
Okay.
And then roads like fixing local roads with Breenthorpe to Coorawatha, they're milestone projects. So I think there's 3 milestone payments that go with that project. So it just depends on how the grant's actually set up.
Thank you.
Yeah. They're all, for you, Mr Mayor, they're all different.
Yeah.
All right. No other comments, councillors, questions? No? Okay, we'll have to put the 11.1 quarterly business review statement with the corresponding recommendations. I think there's 9 recommendations there, councillors. And I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour of those recommendations? Aye. All those against? Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Director. All right. Move on. Oops.
Rates and charges.
Charges.
11.2.
Lost mine. Yep, 11.2, rates and charges. We have a mover and a seconder, please. Yep, moved by Councillor Macon, seconded by Councillor Gorman. Who's director?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going to be very quick with this one. So this is a monthly report we provide on where we are with our rates and charges collection. So pleasingly, we've been able to reduce the outstanding amount in the month of October, so that's good. And we'll continue to focus our energies on doing that. And I do want to just mention that, you know, if anyone is having concerns paying it or problems in being able to meet their repayments, then always just speak to council as well. We'll listen and do what we can.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If I can make one comment, that we actually published our first rates newsletter, which a lot of happy rate payers were actually quite happy to see. So it will go out with every single instalment in terms of just information. It was a good opportunity. We actually printed it just after the new council was actually formed, so we were actually able to announce the new council as well.
I'm thanking the staff a lot. Once again, thanks to the staff for all that work on those outstanding rates. It means such a big impact on our bottom line, and it's a hard job. You know, it's a hard job to chase those outstanding rates up. And I really think the councils all really appreciate the work done by the staff in that area. Yeah. Any other questions or comments, councillors? No comments. No. We'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? Aye. And all those against? Thank you very much. That's passed. 11.3, statement of bank balances and banking facilities. A recommendation that council notes the information contained in the statement of bank balances and banking facilities report. We have a mover and a seconder. Yep, moved by Councillor Montgomery and seconded by Councillor Parlett. Councillor Director for his report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Righto. So this report will just provide our bank balances at the end of October, 31 October, and then it also just breaks down in terms of what's restricted and what's internally allocated, and therefore what's technically available that hasn't been already allocated somewhere. So just very quickly, so we've got an operational account, we've got a business reserve account there, so, and then some term deposits with CBA and also Westpac term deposits. One left now. We did have two. We'll manage the funds as we need them for cash flow purposes through the year. So then it just lists out Commonwealth Bank deposits there, and also lists out our Westpac term deposit. And pleasingly, we've been able to by making the money work a little bit harder, we've actually been able to earn more interest that way. So we're actually, in terms of where we, for 25% into the year, we've actually got 39% of our budget for the year of interest. So that's good, just by working hard around making sure we're investing it and making it work for us. So we've got 11.9 mil altogether in cash. We have restricted cash then of about 8.2 mil. We then have internally allocated cash of about 3.5 mil. And that's things that council deem we need to, provision for. They're importantly, the important things that we need to provision for, such as works, ongoing works for the town and the Shire, or town and for any office equipment, for gravel pits, for our other projects, plant and vehicle replacement, employee leave entitlement. That's an important one. So we want to make sure there's enough money there, and also domestic waste management. You'll see that in there as well. So leaving, when you take off the 11.98 and 3, that leaves about 136. So effectively, we're saying there's not a lot of money left in the bank that hasn't been allocated somewhere. So it's a really important role to actually just, and my staff do it very, very well, and that's just managing the cash, closely. We have got an overdraft in place. We've got it approved to $1 million. We don't expect to use it, but we'll keep it there just in case. So that's it for my report, Mr Mayor.
I just question regarding the sewer fund is, with the interest accrued on the money from the sewer fund, does that go back into the sewer fund, or does it go to a different? You can take it on.
Through you, Mr Mayor, we don't actually, because we have it all in one, one area, and then when we actually pull it out into different investments,
that's obviously the accounting side that then happens internally. It's not a standalone bank account for the sewer fund.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Thank you. Explains that. Questions or comments, councillors?
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
those Commonwealth Bank term deposits obviously mature very soon. So do they stay maintained and restart again to stay where they are, or where do we go from there once they mature?
We typically, through you, Mr. Mayor, we typically roll them
Roll
forward.
them over.
So largely these have been rolled. They continue to roll.
Yep.
And then they're small amounts, so it makes us more flexible in terms of cash flow in and out. We put a lot more back in at the end of June when we got cash in from the tripartite and financial assistance grant, put them into term deposits, and then we'll gradually roll back out to a sort of a more normal level, and then we'll get more cash in, and so we'll just manage it that way. But typically they'll just roll through.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a process in terms of before we make that decision that the staff prepare it, the director signs off it, and the general manager signs off on it before those decisions are made.
Affects your liquidity pretty.
Yeah.
No questions or comments, councillors, there? So I'll put the recommendation to the vote, please. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you, councillors. And then we move on to Librarian's Report 11.4. Recommendation that council notes the information in the Librarian's Report. We'll move in a seconder. Yep, moved by Councillor Rolls, seconded by Councillor Neal. Thank you very much, councillors. I'll ask the Director for the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Librarian's Report for a 4-month period. At a high level, I mean, there's a whole lot of numbers here on library visits, social media, circulation, statistics that you can read. Interlibrary loans, members, additions of stock, deletion of stock, etc. But pleasingly, the activity in the library has been, those numbers are generally higher than the previous month. I mean, you can see them. They've been sort of staged across in some of those tables in terms of activity, July, August, September, October, and they have typically increased over those months and also from the previous quarter. So that's good. That's good news. The other thing I just want to bring to your attention is the council's applied for a libraries infrastructure grant in 2024, so we didn't do it last year. However, we had Libraries New South Wales come out on the 9th of July to the library and had a meeting and then produced a report with some recommendations of what we could do, and strongly suggested we apply for an infrastructure grant. And so we have, so we'll have to watch this space to see if we're successful with that. That's all I wanted to say on that report.
I think some of the suggestions they're making in that report are quite good. To do with signage out the front and some new work inside. So hopefully we were successful with the grant and we can put it towards those things and try and increase our visitation to the library. Comments, questions, councillors? No comments? No? Oh, we'll put that one to the vote again then. All those in favour of the recommendation, please say aye. All those against? Thank you. Motion's carried. Thank you. And next on to 11.5, community support application from the Weddin Health Council. When was it? No. Yeah, we have a move and seconder for that recommendation, please, councillors. Yeah, moved by Councillor Macon, seconded by Councillor Rolls. We'll have the Director of Corporate Services again to speak on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this one here, we've had an application from the Weddin Health Council for a defibrillator, and it was a council resolution back in 2022 that also, endorsed and supported a defibrillator being located outside the Main Street Medical Centre. And that's also in the paper. So council's able to has included in its community support application, and that's actually in our register as well, which contributes to that 20,000 which we've community support donations. So we gladly able to include that, and we would recommend that and it's within budget. It's been budgeted for, and so we certainly recommend that to council to approve that.
Questions, councillors, comments? I think anything that saves lives within our community is important. It's not a big dollar figure, but it does chip away at our money for community things. So.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, does that mean once we approve this recommendation, it's ongoing, that we put this in every maintenance period?
No. This is a one-off, I believe, and correct? Yep, it's a one-off. Yep. Because they all have different maintenance levels and different costs and time and things. So, yep. No other questions or comments? No. I'll put that recommendation to the vote then. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against? That motion's carried as well. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 11.6, the mural concept designs. There's a number of recommendations in this one. 4 recommendations. We have a mover and a seconder for them. Yep, moved by Councillor Parlett, seconded by Councillor Bacon. Thank you. Ask the Director for this report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is concerning the mural on the western wall of the Grenfell Motel, and there's essentially the process is that we've gone out to, in terms of getting a new mural diagram. Has been a lot of community consultation around that. We've gone out, we've received some feedback back on that. So in the paper there are certain recommendations that have been provided to us, which we've included. The proposal is the current mural will be relocated somewhere, so it won't be removed and not reused. It will be. It's only been recently painted anyway. But there's a proposal that will come, but that will be in the December meeting for council in terms of where the current mural goes to, with some recommendations around that. But in terms of this one here, this was really an intention to try and celebrate Grenfell's, identity, enhance the local streetscape with some different artwork, reflecting, community's values, enhancing the local environment, promoting pride and connection among residents. So there were 3 designs that went out to the community, 3 concept designs provided, which are in this paper as well, and for the community to look at. The preferred one was concept design 1, and the RFQ, I should say, was awarded by Daniel Walton and Scott Nagy of Mountain Ash Creative at the end of September 2024. And we had a drop-in session with the artists and the community. 3 designs were then prepared and provided to staff at the end of October 2024. So those designs can be seen here. These concept designs are here. Community consultation had a look at them. They voted on them, and overwhelmingly they came up with concept 1. In fact, about 44% came up with concept 1. And then they went through and actually provided some recommendations to council to make some changes to those, and they are included in the paper. I can go through them if you like, but otherwise we'll take them as
read.
In the paper. Take them as read, and that's all I want to say on that report, Mr. Mayor.
That's right. Any comments, councillors? No comments. I think it's been a good process. I think it's really good. There's been a fair bit of community consultation about this. I do worry about because the application hasn't gone through yet. Should we make a recommendation there that we have an extra dot point in this, that we accept this on only if the...
With an amendment?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Parlett, if you've got the amendment.
Through Mr. Mayor, it's probably just amending point 2, endorses concept 1 for the mural design subject to development approval.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Happy with that, Councillor?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And seconder is Councillor Macon. You're happy with it?
Yep.
So that mover becomes a motion. I think they're great murals. I know it's probably slightly different than what we're used to, but we know how successful the ones on sale have been, attracting that many people to town. Right. 2.
Second point, yeah. Endorses concept 1 for the mural design. Yep, subject to development approval.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, just subject to. No, I think, like I said, I think a little bit different than Grenfell what we used to, but same thing, we've got to move with times and yeah.
I think it'd be awesome to see once it's the final concepts there, so people can see what it's actually going to look like with all the changes and stuff like that. Really.
I think it's important to note too, they're on boards on the building. We're not actually painting it on the side of the building as well. You know, they're not there forever. It's just, you know, they could be removed if the need arises. So yeah, there's something we can keep. So there's no more comments from anyone. We've got a move in a second for that one. We've got an amendment which has been approved, so that now becomes a motion. So all those in favour of that motion, please say aye. Aye. All those against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried. Another one, there's a notifiable data breach. We'll need councillors to note the information on this data breach. Move in a second, please. Yep, Councillor Montgomery and Councillor Neal, thank you very much. Move in a second. Yep, ask the director to speak on this one as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this one here, unfortunately, we had a data breach the beginning of October. Came to our attention that one of our mailboxes was compromised and was sending spam. So the attacker was able to. The mailbox did have multi-factor authentication at the time as well. However, the attacker was able to phish the authentication code along with the password. So quite scary stuff.
Yeah.
The attacker had curated a list of 376 emails. So I had 376 emails to look through, and that had, you know, some internal and external email addresses to which spam was sent. And it is possible, we don't know, the attacker had files to sort of personally identifiable information, such as a passport or that sort of documentation. But any affected persons have been, all affected persons have been notified. Details of the breach have been forwarded to the Office of the Australian Information Commission as required by the Notifiable Data Breaches scheme that's in place. And a public notice has also been put on our website as well. And again, that's in accordance with our data breach policy, response policy. So a number of plain text passwords were also identified within the mailbox, and these passwords have now been reset. Password for the compromised mailbox was unique to this mailbox and did not have domain access, preventing the attacker. So the attacker wasn't able to provide additional workstations, servers, or work mailboxes. So in fact, so largely the council and the council's mainframe servers, if you like, were not touched, which was good. So in terms of moving forward, additional procedures to existing procedures have been put in place. Additional cyber awareness training has been undertaken, but will continue to happen. And there's also, you know, in the next paper, there's a suggestion we update this policy every year anyway. And this is a perfect time for us to at least experience something with limited, if you like, damage to council and to those involved. And I should say one last point: we've also contacted everyone, and if they do have personally identified, you know, information compromised, and they did want to go and get another password or another license then council will definitely provide that cost for them. Thank you.
It's an incredibly difficult thing to keep ahead of, and thanks to the staff for quick action on it. The quick action saved a lot of issues, I think. So
I should also commend our IT officer. I think he's been brilliant, and he's been a real asset to us. And you know, we would be not where we are without him. He's done a really good job. So thanks to him.
This was where it comes back. It was necessary for him to take into that full-time role at council, because the job's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, isn't it? Trying to keep your IT safe. Yep. It's a very, very difficult thing. It's a hard area to do. So, any questions or comments, councillors? No comments? No. So I'll put that recommendation to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, the motion is carried. Thank you. John's last.
There's two more.
Two more, is there? Okay. Oh, he's doing the Crown Lands.
And the adoption of the cybersecurity
Yeah,
policy.
okay, so the next one's Crown Lands, isn't it?
No, 11.8.
I've skipped over it, I'm getting there.
Yep.
11.8 here, adoption of the new cybersecurity policy or revision of it. The council notes information in that report and adopts the cybersecurity policy. Move in a second, please, councillors. Yeah, moved by Councillor Gorman, seconded by Councillor Rolls. Thank you. So, Director, very, very topical for what we just discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It certainly is. And again, so I then segue into saying that this gets updated regularly and should be as well. So every 12 months we do update this policy. So we put it out for public. We put it out we brought it to council in the July meeting, and then it was voted on at that point to go out to public exhibition, which we did. We then invited submissions from the community. We got one submission back, which was received, and so we have reviewed those details in that submission. And we've actually made some additions to our policy. They're effectively sort of fairly minor things like clarity around browsing history and email backups. There's some minor grammatical things. There's changes within our organisational structure just being reported, updates to backups during investigations, etc., including a section around device uptime and power status, and then some guidance on return to work. Yeah, and how we deal with that from an IT perspective. So that's it from me, Mr. Mayor.
Questions, comments, councillors? It's very quiet tonight. It's very quiet.
There is 708 pages to
Yes,
go through,
yeah.
Mr.
Probably
Mayor.
worn out from reading all the reading. That's right. So I'll put that
Bracing
one.
yourself.
I'll put that one to the vote, please. All those in favour of the recommendation, say aye. Thank you. And all those against, that motion carried as well. Thank you. Next one is 11.9, Weddin Shire Council's Crown Lands Plan of Management for Multiple Reserves. The council recommendation, we adopt the Weddin Shire Council's management of plans and note the General Manager will provide a copy of the Council's adopted POM to the Crown Lands Department with a copy of the resolution.
We've got hands for it.
You've got hands for it? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Montgomery and seconded by Councillor Parlett. Thank you, councillors. I think this might be John's final report.
Yes, it is. I'll need a drink of water.
Thank you, John.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So the Crown Reserves Plan of Management, or POM, as the acronym is. The background to that is that previously council reserves were jointly managed by Crown Lands and also council under separate legislation. So what they've done is they've brought this in new legislation that said the joint arrangements have been discarded now in favour of councils having administrative responsibility for these Crown reserves. So the first step, in this process, the first step was for council to undertake a classification of all of those, 29 reserves that it has in terms of park, natural area, bushland, sports grounds, general community use, land, and also other multiple categories. The second step was to prepare a plan of management, or a POM, for all of those 29 reserves. Third step was for community consultation, which has happened, where council was required to publicly notify and exhibit our draft POM to the community, which it has done. The fourth step was then, subject to no changes, following the public exhibition, the Minister for Lands and Property was to consent to council, and that has happened. So essentially, this paper now, council's in terms of how the POM will operate going forwards, council's merely able to make recommendations to the New South Wales Department of Industry and Crown Lands, which may or may not be accepted. The second thing to note is that the process doesn't permit council to sell any Crown land or even deal with land for the simple reason it's not owned by council, so no changes there. Possible future sales of Crown reserves are entirely the matter of the Crown, not the council still. Obvious, but we need to say that. And then obviously the last thing is the POM's adopted by council. Council is the Crown land manager now, as well as the manager of ongoing maintenance. Now, In terms of financial implications, there are no real direct financial implications that we're aware of, outside of the ordinary management maintenance activities that we already do now. All right, so council didn't receive any submissions, so we're just basically suggesting that draft policy, draft POM, is now approved to become our final POM.
Very good. It's once again a very in-depth plan of management, isn't it? Something we have very little control over.
I love
Councillor
working
Pallet?
that report, and it's really good for councillors to be able to now identify what those crown land parcels or pieces that, we didn't know what was what before, so it's quite a good document to have. Very handy. Thank you.
And through you, Mr Mayor, so thank you, Councillor Pallet. I would also like just to acknowledge my staff who put that together as well. So that's my rates officer particularly, did a lot of work, and also our Director of Environmental Services. So thank you to them as well.
Any other comments or questions? No? In case, I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation, please say aye. Aye. All those against, that's carried. So I'd like to say, actually, because that's John's last report to council, on behalf of this council and the previous council as well, thank you, John, for all your time and work you put in on the council. Your financial expertise has been really helpful. I think it's got us to a better position than what we were in, and I really appreciate that. I think Orange City Council is probably getting a very good financial officer. Our loss is their gain, and I understand the reasons behind it. I think keeping your family close is very important, and I think that's great. But I really want to thank you for all the work you've done with your staff and your team and everything like that, Page, and we're in a lot better position, I think, because you've been on as a member of our sort of council team. And thank you. So
yeah,
that's all. And I wish you the best. I know you'll do well, but yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I do leave with a heavy heart because I have formed a lot of relationships here as well, and I've become very invested in Weddin Council, and certainly, I've always had a desire to help people move from a situation to a better situation, and that's always what I've done throughout my whole professional career. So that's been absolutely my pleasure. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good. All right, I have to move on then. Much appreciated. The next one is 12.1. We'll give John a break and let.
Do you, Mr Mayor? His report's done.
His report's done. It's been carried. That's all right. So the council receives and notes information on infrastructure infrastructure works report in October 2024, and the plan works for November 2024. I'll move in a second of that one. Yeah, Councillor Montgomery and Councillor Macon, thank you.
Yeah, through you.
The Acting Director of Infrastructure.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Starting off on natural disasters, our engineer has jumped his final hurdle, I'll have to say, and battling transport, and I think we will get the missing packages passed next week, and which will allow us to attack those roads. The engineer is already calling tenders for a lot of that work, for the packages that are upcoming. On that side, state roads, we're going to talk about that next. Pullabooka Road drainage is going to go to tender shortly. We've spoken, John's kindly spoken about all my report, but Greenthorpe Kurawatha is coming to a completion hopefully by mid-December. That's including the demobilisation. The sealing's happening next week, and that'll benefit that community greatly. Nowlands Road has started. It's however stopped due to negotiations with the farmers, where we've agreed to let them get their harvest out, and then it's going to tender. That's going to be evaluated at the end of the month, and works are likely to start in the new year, with a contractor delivering that work. A Ramagong Road culvert has also gone to tender, and we will evaluate that and award that to a contractor to do. Heathcote Lane culvert, we're waiting on payment. Weddin Shire road entry signs, it's pleasing to report that they are coming next week, and those signs will be finished by mid-December with their solar lights working at night, and that'll be a great sight to see, and for all the visitors to Grenfell should really enjoy that, as I will. Carragable Shed Parkway, again waiting for ARTC to get their contractors lined up to do their matting so we can complete the concrete pathway. Our contractor's ready to go. Another great job finished by our team. Grenfell Cemetery toilet is complete and open, and it's a great new thing there for the community. We are going to equip that this month. Bogalong Dam restoration, still waiting for Public Works to complete their report, which is still happening at the moment. Main Street, well, as you know, the festoon lights are being erected as we speak, and they will be finished in the next couple of weeks, and the whole lights and everything will be wired up before Christmas, I'm told, if not a bit earlier. Our team is doing a few more disabled parking line marking there. We have had line marking organised for the roundabout and the pedestrian crossing, which will be completed before Christmas, and having to give the shopkeepers sufficient notice. So that's what is happening at the moment. 3rd Street, Quandiella, we are getting some survey done there to then do a design to recurb that area. Road maintenance works, well, at the moment our 2 teams are working on RMCC works, or 1 team is working on RMCC works. The 2nd grader team is working, sorry, mental blank, 2nd grader team is working a Greenfield Kurawatha, and they'll finish that, and then they'll be diverted into maintenance work on the local roads, which will be a great thing. Parks and Gardens team is going around doing the mowing and trimming and rose pruning around the place, and that's obviously increasing because of the summer weather and the grass growing, etc., etc. And as for our plant, the grader that we spoke about last month, that is gone from Caterpillar at Bathurst to get a second opinion with another mechanical repair person at Parks. Hopefully that expert will find that he thinks that it is a computer issue, hopefully not a transmission issue, as we reported previously. We'll find that out, and if that's the case, hopefully the repair cost will be considerably less than the figure that we got quoted by Caterpillar. My asset engineer's working very hard to produce a report on the jet patcher, which you'll get next month. And finally, biosecurity, well, that team is going along there and doing their spraying according to what they planned, and that's going well. That's it. Yeah, I've got to the end of that one.
When you think the graders will be out there on the gravel roads, you said?
Well, one will be, you know, mid-December. At the moment, Greenthorpe's finished, early December, mid-December at the latest. Paul.
Yeah. I'm just considering the harvest trucks on the road with the grader. That's all. But yeah.
Oh, look, I mean, we'll work in with what we can do there.
Yeah. That's all. Any comments on that report, councillors? No thanks. No. Very good. I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation, please say aye. Aye. All those against? That one's carried as well. Thank you. That's. Well, then we move on to 12.2. There was including the late reports, which the updated road maintenance, the RMCC contract, updated road maintenance council contract. Yep. The council note the information contained in this report. Move in a second for that one. Councillor Gorman moved and seconded by Councillor Parlett. Thank you. The director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
It's a good news one, isn't it?
Yes, it's a good news one and a short one. Phil's team is doing a lot of extra work there on the Newell at the moment. They're doing long hours to achieve the production rates that Transport's set, along with assistance with contractor Fulton Hogan, sorry. They are working flat out and doing a great job to get the Newell section done, and then they'll be moving on. We're doing progressive claims on the work that team's completing, and Transport are paying us accordingly for the works complete. That's basically it. Yeah, no, they're going great.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank the staff for that. Good work with that too. RMCC contract's very important to us. So.
Critically important.
Critically important for us, yeah. So all those in favour of the recommendation, please, councillors. Aye. All those against? Thank you, councillors. That one's carried. Yep. It's 12.2. Move on to 0.
13.1.
Yep, move on to 13.1 now. Yeah, environmental services reports, 13.1, development applications, construction certificates and compliant development certificates. We have a move and a seconder. Yeah, moved by Councillor Montgomery, seconded by Councillor Rolls. Ask Luke Sheen, the Director of Environmental Services, for his report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So yeah, that's just a monthly report for the development applications and the construction certificates which were determined during the month of October. So that was just for noting.
Anything, councillors? No questions? No, as there is. No. Okay, we'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against? That one's carried. Next we move on to 13.2, which is a development application, minor building alteration, external and installation of the art mural. This was a late report. Just want to make sure that all the councillors have seen the report and read the report and understand the report. Yep, very good, thank you. So just ask for a move and a seconder for the recommendation of that report, please. Yep, moved by Councillor Montgomery, seconded by Councillor Macon. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So development application 35 of 2024. So it proposes minor building alterations and the installation of a new art mural. So on the western wall of the Grenfell Motel. So that will replace the existing murals that are on that wall, and as discussed in the previous report from the Corporate Services Director, those murals will be relocated at a later date, so there'll be a further report based on that and where they will go. So the application is reported to Council due to the requirements of the Council-related development application conflict of interest policy. There was also one submission that was received in relation to the application as well. So In the report there, it outlines, as per the previous report to council, is the mural design was based on option number 1, subject to a number of changes that were recommended by the staff down at the Visitor Information Centre and from community feedback that they had received. So the building in which the proposed mural is to be located, it's not a heritage item, it's just located within the heritage or the Grenfell Urban Heritage Conservation Area. So the submission received raised some concerns around the heritage, that heritage conservation area and the potential impacts on that. So within the report there's been a full assessment of the application as required under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, including the clauses in our LEP and also our Development Control Plan around heritage. So ultimately what that has come back with is that there is the impacts of the development aren't such that the development application should be refused. It's generally compliant with all those requirements. So as I suppose we've talked about in the previous report, yes, it's slightly different to normal, but that was based on, the applicant has advised, that was based on the community feedback. They wanted something bright and vibrant for the mural, so that's why it's ended up with that design. So yeah, within the report, the mural actually will reflect some of those aspects of the Weddin Shire that we have, along with those changes that have proposed, including, I think that included making the Weddin Mountains sort of more stand out in that, changing some of the birds and the flora within the mural to match up with sort of more commonly known flora and fauna within the Shire. In the report, it goes through at the end there the submission and all the issues that were raised in the submission, and there's a corresponding comment in relation to those as well, to provide an assessment to you. So that's about it. There's a recommendation there that the application be approved subject to conditions.
Thank you. So the recommendation is recommendation to be provided upon completion of detailed development assessment at the completion of the public exhibition period and prior to the November council meeting. Was that it? No, sorry, that's that other recommendation. This is the recommendation here. Yep, the council notes the reason for this decision is that the proposal largely complies with section 4.15 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. 2, the development application number 35/2024 being for minor building alterations, external and the installation of an art mural, be approved by council subject to the recommended conditions listed in Appendix A of the assessment report and be signed under delegated authority by the Director of Environmental Services. And 3, that the General Manager register this planning decision in line with Section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993, including the names of the councillors who supported the decision and the names of any councillors who opposed or are taken to have opposed that decision. So any questions or comments regarding the recommendations or the report, councillors?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just from a procedural perspective, when councillors go to vote, if you could just actually hold your hand up for a little bit longer so we can actually record the names.
So being a development application, those names have to be recorded. No comments or questions, councillors?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Nathan.
Once we approve this development application, once the final design's obviously approved, it gets moved ahead for completion.
Yep. So the development application gives, I suppose, the applicant, in this case it's the staff of council, the go ahead to go with the mural. Obviously then they will, like any other applicant, they will liaise with the installer based on the changes that we want to make and then move forward from there.
Hopefully have a grand opening at
the light of the night.
the early light of the night, which everyone's going to, of course. No more questions or comments, councillors? No? So I'll put those recommendations to the vote. Please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
And all those against? Thank you. So that's a unanimous vote. Who? Myself? Sorry, I didn't make one. Sorry. Good catch. Director for the quick movement on that too. 13.3, reclassification of community land to operational land. There's 4 recommendations on that one, councillors. Move in a second for that recommendation. Yeah. Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Montgomery. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, item 13.3 just relates to a planning proposal for the reclassification of community land to operational land. So, the Local Government Act enables council or council-owned properties to be classified as either operational or community land based on their intended use. So, community land generally means like parks, reserves, sports grounds, which are generally open to the public. While operational land includes land containing like such for instance, like our council depot, we've got dwellings, our units, or leased land which may not be open to the public, just depending on the situation. So as it currently stands, all council land, council-owned land, is classified as community land. The reason for that is that council hadn't by resolution classified any land as operational within 12 months of the Local Government Act being enacted, which was back in 1993, or within 3 months of acquiring any land after those dates. So essentially all our land was community land. So Council at its meeting held on the 16th of November 2023 resolved to prepare a planning proposal for the reclassification of 13 allotments from community land to operational land. That's the only way that they can be reclassified now, is through a planning proposal under the Local Government Act and the Environmental Planning Assessment Act. So subsequent to that, the Bogalong Dam Committee requested that the allotment containing the dam also be included in the planning proposal, and that was those minutes of the Bogalong Dam Committee were reported to the council meeting on the 15th of August 2024, where they were adopted. So that resulted in the planning proposal including 14 allotments. Subsequent to that, when we were preparing the planning proposal, we actually identified an additional allotment, that being at the old Commonwealth Bank. There was a separate allotment, so it was actually made up of 2 allotments. So hence the reason we've actually included that in the planning, or the draft planning proposal, and the need for that to come back to council, as we need a council resolution that covers all the allotments in the planning proposal before we can send that off to the Department of Planning. So it's got 15 allotments at the moment. The draft planning proposal has been drafted to comply with the Local Government Act and the Environmental Planning Assessment Act, and there's also some practice notes that the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure that a planning proposal of this nature has to comply with. So the intention of the planning proposal is to ensure that we classify our land appropriately. That does have some impact in even things like our rating of that land, which is probably some of the land that we've got which should be operational has been classified as community and so forth, so it doesn't get rated appropriately either. So it's clearing up all those little issues. So from here, I suppose we're seeking a council resolution on the planning proposal to refer it to the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure for a gateway determination. So the gateway determination is basically a checkpoint for a planning proposal, which allows the department to do an initial check to make sure that it sort of meets some strategic and site-specific sort of merit requirements, and then basically they tell us whether it can proceed to public exhibition. So within the planning proposal document has actually got the public consultation process within that we're proposing to do. That will include plenty of advertising in the community. There'll also be a public hearing that we're required to do under the Local Government Act, so that the public will have opportunity to provide comment in relation to what's being proposed in the planning proposal. So the recommendation also is that if it does make it through the gateway determination and we get that approval to go ahead, that is done then, that the public consultation is done in accordance with the proposed plan. So I suppose the important thing to probably a couple of things to note is that, yes, the planning proposal isn't to go and sell all those blocks of land. They become operational based on what their intended use is, to classify them correctly. There is an opportunity that if they are operational, that council can sell operational land, but that isn't the intention of this planning proposal. It's really just to make sure that we're classifying them correctly. So the document, anyone who reads through there, in some of the tables, it'll actually say or refer to, if council was to sell that land, what would we use the profits for? That's actually an obligation under the guidelines for preparing the proposal. So it's not actually inferring that we're going to go off and sell that block of land. It's just a requirement that we have to say, if we ever do that in the future, where will that money go? So we've sort of highlighted that would go back into council's funds for the maintenance and operation of all our other council buildings and properties.
If it gets knocked back at the gateway, will that be knocked back as a block, or would they say some are appropriate and some aren't appropriate?
It can come back to say that some may be, and we could split it up and go back and say, look, those ones, there might be certain easier ones that can proceed, and then there's some further work that we need to do on others, so they can do that. Well, they might come back with a recommendation that we do that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, does that mean that if it gets knocked back at Gateway, does it go back to council resolution again to be put forward again?
Yeah, so if it got knocked back, depending on what it's there, if it's something sort of minor that we can sort out at a staff level, we can do that and send it back to them. If it was something major, then it would be more than likely reported back to council. So, yeah.
I think like one of the best things you said, the director said to me was, like the council depot, if it's community land, community can walk up and walk in on it, where it's not, it's actually it's a council asset sort of thing. So that's
It's council work site.
It's a council work site, so that's sort of it's a good way of explaining it, I thought. So, so any questions or councillors? Any comments to the director? No. Everyone's happy with the report then? Yeah. Okay, that's I'll put that. There's 4 recommendations, so we'll put those 4 recommendations to the votes. All those in favour of those recommendations, please say aye. Aye. Yeah, that's everybody. And all those against? Nobody. Thank you very much. That motion's carried. We're up to Condiala 13.4. The recommendations regarding the Condiala swimming pool. The council notes the information contained in the operations report for the Quandie swimming pool. We have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor moved by Councillor Niven, seconded by Councillor Macon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So item 13.4 is just an update on the Condiala swimming pool. So it actually opened, the season opened on the 29th of October. We actually had an official opening on the 30th of October, which was the swimming club night out there on the Wednesday, where the Mayor opened the renovations to the amenities building out there. So that was that work was completed under the LRCI round 3 funding that council allocated to that. So originally there was, I think it was $150,000 that was allocated. Ultimately, we ended up allocating $228,000 to it out of that funding. So thanks must go to that funding body. So for that money. So as part of the renovations works, there was some community consultation out there around what they wanted with the facility, which they quite important to the locals out there, the swimming pool. So it was community run for 48 years until council sort of took it over. So the main sort of themes that come through was that they wanted hot water and they wanted to see the amenities building and the canteen sort of upgraded. So they'll sort of pass their use by date. So yes, so we've managed to achieve that. We've got pretty much a total revamp of the inside of the amenities building and the canteen. So they've got a fresh new amenities, both male and female, and also a new canteen area, so, which has come up pretty good, given it's an old building. So local builders, Trevelli Constructions. So they were the ones who undertook the work, so it was good to keep the money local. They've done a tremendous amount of work out there. They've even sort of done some work which was outside the scope, because with old buildings you always run into a few skeletons that you have to fix. So thanks certainly have to go to them for the work that they've done out there. And yeah, so there was a reasonably good crowd there on the Wednesday, and I think some of the current councillors and some previous councillors that went out there for the opening.
I think we should also thank the Cornwall Swimming Pool fundraising committee, because they added some money to the pot too, which was much appreciated and allowed us to get the whole thing completed, up to a lot higher standard, I think. So they should be.
I suppose before I should just mention is that there's a couple of minor things that we're still waiting on, say a rainwater tank and some pumps, which will hopefully go on in the next few weeks. But yeah, the large majority of the work and all the grant funding was spent, so we come in on budget.
It was a good event when we opened it as well. Lots of kids there. It shows you how many families there use that facility as well. So, and how important it is to them. So I'm glad we can get this up and running and these renovations made. So, any questions or comments, councillors? Okay then, thank you. We'll put this one to the vote again. So just a recommendation that we note the report. So we've got a move and a second. So all those in favour? Right. And all those against? Thank you. That one's carried. And very similar. We'll move on to the Grenfell Aquatic Centre. Grenfell Aquatic Centre 13.5. Council note the information on operations report for the Aquatic Centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's
Sorry, yes, it was. Just skipped ahead, didn't I? Moving a second for this report, thank you. Councillor Montgomery and Councillor Rolls, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, item 13.5, it's just for council noting. So it just advises that the Grenfell Aquatic Centre, it opened on the 14th of October. So it's just giving an outline of the attendance for that month, or that half a month since it opened, the amount of the daily average and total attendance and the season ticket attendance.
Straightforward, that one. Any questions, councillors? No? I'll put that one to the vote then. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. And all those against? That one's carried. That's it then. Thank you, councillors. We'll just move on to delegates' reports. Nil. Yeah. Minutes from committee meetings, nil. And then we'll move into closed council. So, moving to closed council, recommend that the meeting now be closed to the public under section 10A(2) of the Local Government Act to consider these following items due to their confidential nature. 16.1 is request for tender 34-2024 road sealing of Nowlands Road project. We are closing this in council, as this will provide council an overview of the request for tenders on supply sealing surfaces for the Nowland Road project and obtain a council resolution to award the tender. 16.2 is provision of spray seal pavement services for the state roads. So this matter is considered confidential under section 10A2-D1 and D2 of the Local Government Act. Because the purpose of this is to provide council an overview of the tender of T21-24, provision of sealing surfaces for state roads for council resolution. And then 16.3 is audit risk and improvement committee's independent chair appointment. This is confidential as well under section 10A2-A of the Local Government Act, as this purpose of this report is to appoint an independent chair for the audit risk and improvement committee. And then we have 16.4, which is a mayoral minute on the council's commitment to psychosocial safety and developing organisational values. This matter is considered to be confidential under the section 10A2 of A of the Local Government Act, because this is to provide council with suggested council action plans, which will be incorporated in our overall psychological hazard action plan. Thank you. So we have a move and a second for those. We're moving in closed council, sorry. Yes, so it's moved by Councillor Rowell, second by Councillor Makin. All those in favour of moving to closed council, say aye. Aye. Yeah, all those against, thank you very much. back everyone to open council. We'll move on. So the results of the closed council, 16.1, resolution 25-24 was that council note the evaluation information contained in the report regarding RFT 34-2024 road sealing of Nowlands Road project. Two was endorse the tender 34-2024 for the supply of sealing surfaces to Nowland Roads project being awarded to Downer EDI Works Pty Ltd for the tendered price as set out in the report. And 3, delegates the General Manager to enter into and execute the contract with Downer EDI Works Pty Ltd for the supply of sealing services for the Nowland Road project. That motion was carried unanimously. Then we went to 16.2, which was the provision of spray seal pavement services for state roads. The Council, 1, receive and note the information in the report regarding the provision of spray seal pavement services, state roads T21 to 2024. 2, delegates the General Manager to accept the following 8 submitted tenders from A, Capital Asphalt, B, Colas, C, Countrywide Asphalt, D, Downer EDI, F, Fulton Hogan, F, Norman McMahon Patches, G, Roadworks Servicing, and H, Stabilised Pavements of Australia. And 3, we delegate the General Manager to enter into a contract with the contractors listed at 2A to 2H above to form a panel contract for the provision of sealing surfaces for the state roads for the 12-month period from the 28th of October 2024 to the 28th of October 2025. And we delegate the General Manager that the General Manager can extend the panel contract prior to its expiration up to 90 days in the event that a further panel has not been established prior to the expiration date in accordance with the tender provisions and in mutual agreement by the contractors. This motion was also carried. Then we move on to 16.3, the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee's independent chair appointment. 1, that Council notes information contained in the report. 2, appoints the chair of Council's Audit Risk and Improvement Committee at the remuneration stated within its report to commence on the 1st of January 2025 for a period of 3 years. 3, Council endorses that in the event the appointed chair is unable to take this role, the Council appoints the next preferred applicant as chair from the merits list. And 4, endorses that the merits list is in place for a period of 12 months from commencement of the appointment. That was also carried. And we moved into the Merrill Minute, which was Council's commitment to psychosocial safety and development organisational values. This was a Merrill Minute and the motion was carried. Thank you very much. At this point, then we'll need a move and a seconder to thank you for everyone for attending. Thank you, John, for all your hard work once again.
Thank you very much.
That's right.
I just wanted to also say to say thank you for all my staff across finance, but as economic development and tourism and IT and records, finance. So I just want to make that point and acknowledge that publicly. A big thank you to them.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillors, for attendance. So we need to move in a second to close at this time. Yet. Moved by Councillor Rolls and seconded by Councillor Gorman. All those in favour? Thank you very much, Councillors. That move is carried.